Have you ever waited at a crosswalk, even though there aren't any cars around, but the sign is clearly telling you not to go, and all of a sudden somebody just pops out of nowhere and crosses the road, leaving you standing there like a nerd? That's how I felt watching. Because what do you mean? I didn't know a TV show around superheroes could have such a well-written story with both complex characters and badass fights. I grew up watching the Teen Titans. What best would just teach you how to evade taxes, not some big cinema like this. But before we start, this video will contain heavy spoilers on the last season of Invincible, so quit watching right now if you haven't finished the show now. The season starts off with Mark at his lowest possible, which is reasonable considering the fact he just got beat up badly. His girlfriend practically died, and his brother got almost twisted like a pretzel. So with that, he started doubting himself. Maybe the approach he used for all this time while fighting crime was just wrong. Maybe he really needs to become more like his father, because many threats show up again, like the Flax and the Sequids, dinosaurs. It would be much easier if he just finished the job once and for all. And that's what he does. In the first episode, he almost ices Dinosaurus, and later on he actually kills the astronaut controlled by the Sequids. And Cecil gets rightfully worried about this, and basically tells him, I understand you did the best thing you could, but you're just 19, calm down. And from there till episode 4, Mark is continuously on the edge between being a superhero who gets the job done and not becoming like his dad. And don't get me wrong, it's hard from his point of view, because the line is very subtle between killing only when it's necessary and when it's easy. Like, it gets so bad that he needs to be reassured 3 times that the chick he has in front of him is gonna destroy Earth for him to finally stop her. Also, on a side note, I think it's really funny how Mark is at his calmest during this entire season when he's in literal hell doing a side quest for Satan. Like, only from there you can grasp how fucked his brain is at the moment. But moving on from Invincible just for a moment, now I can finally talk about Nolan, who at this point completely turned on his people, and is now doing side quests with Allen in space, onto some Mandalorian shit. And basically, they are going through a bunch of different planets, recruiting the best fighters they can. Here they find Space Racer, Battle Beast, Tech Jacket, and these alien bugs. But finally, after all this time spent gathering courage, Nolan is finally ready to go back on Earth. Not just to grab both of his sons, but also to do the scariest thing he could think of, seeing his ex-wife. And listen, I understand that he wanted to see her and all that, but dude, what the fuck did you think was gonna happen? Like, you're seen as a worse version of the Big Bean. And to make matter worse, you've also cheated on her and sent her the result of said cheating in a childlike packaging. But still, Nolan has the balls to show up, and he gets cooked out of his ass, rightfully so if I might add.
If I was supposed to change you, I failed. You're not one of us. You're not human. You're barely a bad photocopy.
Right after this reality check, Nolan, Mark and Oliver leave Earth altogether to get back to Telescria, and it's here where we get a teaser of a relationship that will never happen between Oliver and Tech Jacket. And it's all peaches and Greenville until all of a sudden the ship gets destroyed. It's Conquest, the guy who is responsible for all the trauma that Mark is going through. And Mark, upon seeing him, gets really surprised, because the last time they met, the consistency of Conquest's face was much more similar to a pizza rather than a human-like shape. But still, Mark jumps him regardless, and he actually does pretty well, until... And it's here where we get my personal favorite episode in the season, also because I'm a big Oliver fan, where Nolan and Oliver watch over Mark until he recovers, and in the meantime, they get the chance to talk. And it's here that we learn that Oliver overheard the discussion between Nolan and Debbie, where he called Andressa basically a drunken mistake, and Oliver gets so pissed to the point he wants him dead. Nolan at this point tries to do the best thing possible, which is being a dad. And so he spends much time with Oliver, training him, playing, hunting and fishing. But most importantly, he doesn't make the same mistake he did with Mark, and he actually says he's sorry. I don't know what is it about this episode, but I just loved it. Maybe it's the fact that even though the whole galaxy is at war, and the Graysons still find a way to be a family. Oh, and also Thaddeus is basically him. Now fast forward to episode 7, and we finally get to see Frag, the Grand Regent of the Veltromites. And I gotta say, they made such a good job with the character. Like, you can feel his presence every time he enters the scene, because you know something is gonna happen. And the calmness that he has is what sells the character the most. Like, even if around him his people are dying, he still doesn't give a fuck. He just stands there menacingly, accumulating aura, up until his planet gets drilled, to which he replies in a polite manner. What the fuck? Right after we learn why Nolan was so scared about fighting Thrag in the first place. Like, this nigga's a menace, nothing can stop him, not even the power of family or some bullshit. Even Mark, who at this point is really strong, summons his inner Michael Chandler and runs for his life. Unfortunately, it's not long before Frag catches up, Trios is dead, and leaves Mark in a vegetative state. But before finishing them, he realizes it is not worth it, and so he leaves them drifting through space. However, it's not like this will have some long-term repercussions, because Mark is the main character, and throughout the power of plot and self-healing, everybody gets revived, except for Thaddeus. And it's here that we learn that Frag and the others have gone to Earth, or at least that's what Mark supposes, and so they get moving. They arrive, and nothing seems out of place, except for Mark's PTSD, which is now so bad that the guy has started imagining things, more precisely Frag, sliming out Debbie, Cecil, and his girlfriend. And it's not like he can do something about it, because even when he was dealing with the real Frag, he didn't harm him in any way, shape or form. It gets so bad that the first thing he asks Cecil is not even why Conquest is alive, but rather if he could do some therapy. While all of this is happening, Nolan has still not given up on himself, and he tries again with Debbie, but this time things turn out for the better in some weird way, with Debbie saying that she's going into space to see what happened to Oliver, and so they both leave. Right after that, Mark goes out for a flight to clear off his mind, and while there, he sees a familiar face. But this time around, he doesn't fall for it and calls it a bluff.
Let me explain your future to you. Walk your streets. We will disappear within your society. Your people will never know we are here. But they will save us nonetheless, as we use them to birth our salvation.